cucumbers on the dish. That's not really going to stay true to the spirit of what I see in the wine, which is what we want to show on the plate.
Love it. This is Scott Jordan. You're watching live here at Cellars of Sonoma. We just took a break, came back, and I asked a question before the break. I'll go ahead and answer this. We hear about this in the tasting room all the time. And when I go to tastings, I run into this scenario and I grab their hand because there's only one way to do this correctly. The question is, true or false, if you're switching to a different wine in your glass, it's best to swirl some water into the glass first. The answer to that, very clearly, absolutely not. Here's what you do. My next wine that I'm going to pour is this James Syrah. Now, if I was worried about getting rid of that little bit of white wine, which in this example I wouldn't be worried, I'd pour it right through. You'd never taste it. But all right, I'll get the question in a second. Hang on. If it was a red wine, we were going to white, and I really wanted to clean the glass out, I'd clean it out with the white wine and then dump it in the dump bucket and then pour the wine in there. Correct. That way, that water is not going to make that alcohol evaporate, and that's exactly what it does. It sticks to the side of the glass, and see you later. Nice.
Dilutes the flavor. You lose some of the palate and the nose.
Right. Absolutely. So we have an audience question. Go ahead. Ask the question, Kevin.
So, the question's for Dan. Jack, do you find this wine very food friendly that's starting to the wine shop?
Let's ask the question. Okay. The question is, do we find these wines to be food friendly? Is that what it was?
Right.
Yeah.
Food friendly. From our friend Dan, we got the answer.
I love food. I love wine. I like them both better together. So, for example, these wines, some of them were a little more, I had to get a little more creative in the pairings. Mm-hmm. Some of them were very easy. They really spoke to the ingredients that I would use or that would work well with the flavors of the wines. This shipment was interesting because there was two Syrahs, and they were very different Syrahs.
They're very, very different.
So it's almost like you're using a completely different varietal, or you're using an old world wine with a new world wine. So it opens up a lot of possibilities for different ingredients, different techniques. And the two lists of ingredients that I included for each of the Syrahs are very different from each other.
Yeah, and I put the two Syrahs in there because they're from two different appellations, and they are really very, very different wines, and therefore it does lead toward pairing up different parts of your meal, a different meal with that Syrah. Normally you wouldn't do those, but I did it purposely because it was showing so well. So the first one was the 2008 Syrah. This comes from the Mounds Vineyard in Dry Creek. From our location here, it's about 12 miles to the north, and then it's up the hill about 1,200-foot elevation. Mm-hmm. Mounds family's been making really killer wines for a long, long time. James was able to acquire that. Not everybody gets a chance to get to that vineyard. They don't make a whole lot of wine up there.
No, my friend Eric gets some of theirs.
Yeah,
and he makes great Pinot from there.
Oh, yeah, it's phenomenal. So this was James' very first Syrah, and it all starts in the vineyard. No matter what you're doing, doesn't matter how you produce, what kind of winemaker you are. I have one of the most famous winemakers on the planet here with Heidi Barrett, but you know what? She's not a magician, and it starts in that vineyard. And this shows beautiful vineyard. You had incredible fruit, very ripe, but a little lighter than the Gan. I thought the Gan was a little bigger wine.
A little different structure. I think there was a little more fruit forward in this one, a little more tannin in the Gan.
All right. So what did you decide were the ingredients for this one?
Well, this one is kind of the most fun to drink by itself. I could almost leave the food behind.
Yeah.
But in having said that, I'm not going to pair it with a steak or a barbecue ribs or a big braised lamb leg. So instead, I chose ingredients that were more sort of a hors d'oeuvre appetizer style. Those ingredients include Humboldt Fog goat cheese, local goat cheese, some fruit, apples, walnuts, cranberries, some bitter greens with endive, and then a little bit of vegetable character in carrot and leek. I included sourdough bread, which could be made into a crouton. It could be sliced thinly and wrapped around the goat cheese. It could be made into a crostini for the apples, which could be served as a dice on the top, or little matchsticks of the apple. The cranberries could be made into a pesto and spread on that bread, and then with the goat cheese. There's a lot of different things you can do that are all gonna more or less nicely emphasize different aspects of the wine. So it's up to the chef at home to determine which elements they find in the wine and what they want to bring out with their food pairings.
All right, so those of you that might have tuned in late, we're launching our wine club recipe contest, a cook-off here in the tasting room on May. When is this thing?
23rd.
Okay, the 21st. May 21st from 4 to 6 here in the tasting room. The whole idea is that you take the ingredient list and you go ahead and make that dish, bring enough for about 30 people to have a little taste.
Yeah.
And then we will judge that, and we'll have winners in each of the categories for all 4 wines. And it's your chance to be the chef for the day. And we thought of another thing that we would do. Normally, Jack makes the complete recipes for our wine club shipments with all the ingredients and so forth. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to publish the winners. And so you got to give up your recipe. Sorry, but you got to give up your recipe if you want to be in there. But
do they bring it with them, or do you collect it later after the winners?
Oh,
just the winners, right?
Yeah, just the winners. Yeah, just bring it with you. We'll collect it at that time. We don't want to forget. And what we'll do is we'll publish then the recipes from each individual, and we'll take your picture and we'll have it on for you being the chef. So there'll be 4 cool. Well, maybe one person will get all 4.
Maybe
that'd be tough.
And it's not to say that we might not find some room in the kitchen down the street, picking up a few hours helping out.
That's right.
Should the recipes be good enough? No promises.
A job offer. I love that. I'll get 20,000 people will be here tomorrow. And here's the other thing. You have to cook it at home. I have a little easy bake oven thing just to warm up stuff, but for the most part,
don't count on it. It's pretty small.
It's really small. You need to bring it in some kind of a, shaping
cooler or chafing dish,
something like that.
Wrapped in layers of foil or plastic wrap. It should work.
Yeah, that'll be sufficient. So we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back. With those of you watching live, we'll continue our conversation. I'm going to ask a question, and then we'll answer it on the other side of the break. And this is interesting, Guy. I want to get your take on this one. In a restaurant, it's appropriate to send back a bottle of wine you just don't like. True or false, in a restaurant, it's appropriate to send back a bottle of wine you just don't like. Now, that's an interesting